I am back and ready to finish out these Top Cut Decklist reviews for all three nationals. Today I'm going to be covering the Earth and Good symbols. Between these two symbols, we saw 26 players make top cuts. Let's jump right into it with Earth. And the Earth symbol is fundamentally all about Overhaul. 11 out of the 13 players that top cut with Earth were on Overhaul, and the other two were on Nomu. So basically, this is just an Overhaul story. Now, I think Overhaul is better and more consistent on life, but I think the Earth build is easier. And Earth has just been a steady package for so long that I think a lot of players just kind of dive into it. And it's really tempting to use Hardened Jab and Hardened Frenzy alongside Maximum Overhaul. That's the primary combo we're going to see when we look at these Earth Overhaul lists is all, Frenzy to build down, face down, Jab to pick it up, Maximum Overhaul to pick it up. Sometimes I think Earth Overhaul can get a little bogged down in face down foundations and doesn't play the long game quite as well as Life Overhaul. But, in Swiss rounds, I was killed on turn 2 by an Earth Overhaul. So his power is definitely there. He's consistent. And I think a lot of people piled into him just because I think he's a little easier to pick up than Life Overhaul. He's pretty consistent. Us as players are pretty used to playing this Earth package, this Earth punch package. And so we saw just quite a bit of success on Earth Overhaul. Let's start. I'm going to speed through these decks because they're all quite similar. But we had 5 Earth Overhauls in the EU region. Let's start here at number 15 with Nathan James. And here you can see exactly what I'm talking about. 4 Hardened Frenzy, 4 Hardened Jab, 4 Maximum Overhaul. This is going to build down. This is going to pick us up an attack. This is going to pick us up attacks. We're going to play something from our stage. This is also going to clear progressive, which is going to be nice. Hardened Chop, Overhaul's not adding speed, so Chop is forcing our rival to discard their cards, and then we're going to hit them with a million attacks. And then down here, we're going to see a pretty consistent foundation base as well from the Overhauls. It's just going to be a question of, what did this player decide to mainboard and what did they decide to sideboard? See, for example, here you can see Nathan is playing 4 Learning the Standards. Some Overhauls weren't playing any Learning the Standards. They were putting this in the sideboard. But it's really strong in the meta right now to make them have to play a non-attack card as their next form. Also, the flip after your rival builds an asset or foundation during the combat phase, flip it. This can be really big. Even if you're playing a Life Overhaul, they build passing the torch. You can flip Learning the Standards and force them to flip it. Of course, that's not super powerful against Overhaul since they can just unflip on their turn, but it's something, and it's some stage control. So it's just a strong card no matter how you look at it. We've got, your snack times, quick to axe to add the speed when you get to less than half health. Overhaul on Earth is more willing to take damage than Life Overhaul. And then these quick to axe come into play and everything's getting lots of speed. Snack time to me is almost a ban-worthy card. Discard a card, getting a speed, and stun 1. The 2 of these are a gnarly combo to fight through. The one tight-lipped is pretty much just to flip your block zone that you need because normally you don't want to be flipping a ton as Overhaul. We do see Chivalrous Competitor. On a lot of lists, I see, not male bonding. It's male. Well, we'll see it. We'll see when I get to a list that has it. We'll talk about it. The one diff that lets you build a foundation on defense. I see a lot of Overhauls like to loop that. And then you have Prehensile Tail to add your momentum to your hand, and it can be an incredible deadlock. And if you're playing a Mirio, you can get them to discard their momentum. So that is Nathan James' list. Let's jump into our next Overhaul list. And here we're playing a similar attack package: Frenzy, Jab, Rapid Punches, Maximum Overhaul. But we've also added in the Bad Guy Roundup. This is Momentum Hate. It pretty consistently draws you a card, and it just has powerful 2 on it. This attack has been huge for a lot of decks. And then we're playing 4xing Back Alley, of course, and we've got 3 Calorie Counter. So this plus Seizing the Advantage, you have a pretty good amount of stage control at flipping your rival's pieces, your rival's best foundations. And then it's also just going to be an 8 damage attack in Overhaul. That pretty much gets to ignore progressive to a good extent, being a 3 difficulty. You know, both Jab is basically a 3 difficulty attack, and Calorie Counter is going to be a 3 difficulty attack. Maximum Overhaul letting you pick things up. You can see just the amount of aggressive output that this deck can put out. Now, in this list, we are choosing to 4x Faith Shield, which makes a lot of sense. It's just very, very strong right now. Like I said, a lot of these lists is like, what did the player decide to mainboard and what did they decide to sideboard? So here we are mainboarding both for Faith Shield and for learning the standards. Very aggressive on these 2 defensive cards, and I think that's a really wise decision personally. Web of Blades, I love this. If you're going up against like an Eraserhead, this is going to be huge just to get your speed back. What else do we have? 1 copy of Monstrous Ferocity. Okay, here it is. This was the foundation I was looking for on the earlier list that I didn't see. Manly Passionate Guy. I think this is one of Earth Overhaul's best foundations. Flip and then build in the foundation that you blocked with. And then you can always just play this on your turn. If you don't want to use your play from stage on an attack, you can play this and just get it right back again. Yep, and then everything is pretty similar. We are running 2 copies of Experimenting on Quirks. This is a foundation that wasn't seen in a lot of these Earth Overhaul lists, but you can commit it for +2 speed when you really need, and then lose 1 health if this attack deals no damage, gain 2 health. So if you know you're going to be blocking on defense, this is just another way to gain health. And then on offense, it can activate some things like I guess on Evil, it can activate like Bench Press, but this is on Earth, or it could, gaining the health could help carbo loading, but you don't need help with carbo loading since you're Overhaul. Let's jump into our next list. We have Grant Padley, and here we are not running Hardened Frenzy. We're running a Instant Shining Flash instead, it looks like. This is also a low block, but this is a 1 low block with Momentum Hate. We're running Instant Shining Flash instead of Hardened Frenzy and instead of Bad Guy Roundup for Momentum Hate. And then we are running 2 copies of Muscle Mauler, which is really interesting because typically we see this attack in Nomu builds, but now we see it jumping into even Earth Overhaul builds because a lot of times you're going to have more health than your rival, and so it's going to be only 5 difficulty, and then you get to draw a card and add a momentum to your hand. So between that and Prehensile Tail, your momentum is like a third hand. You know, Overhaul gets his hand, his stage is basically his hand, and now with this list, his momentum is basically his hand. He's just drawing attacks from everywhere. And then this list is using Pull No Punches because we have ways to draw from our momentum. And so Pull No Punches is going to put attacks into our momentum, and then we're going to draw from our momentum. So I really like this kind of unique twist on Earth Overhaul in this build. Now, we are not running any Faith Shield and learning the standards in the main board, or You're So Obvious, but they're all in the sideboard here. So the main board is a pretty aggressive tilt on Overhaul, but we have the defensive cards that we need at the side for when we need them. Yeah, Male Bonding. Male Bonding's a little more aggressive than Manly Passionate Guy because you're just building more face downs very, very quickly. But this whole list is a little more aggressive, so it makes sense. Let's jump into Kyle's list at number 7. Once again, we have the Frenzy Jab Maximum combo with Chop, Haymaker, and Rapid Punches. Only 1 copy of Seizing the Advantage. Brute Strength is a foundation that I don't think we saw in the earlier 3 Overhaul lists, but it makes a lot of sense. Losing a health is not really a cost when you just get to gain it right back. Also, Brute Strength can be really handy in like a Mirio match when Mirio zeroes out the damage of your attack, and then you Brute Strength, and you can get 2 damage back plus Overhaul. Now all of a sudden you're right back up to 4 damage. Really, really nice against damage reduction characters like Mirio. We got 2 copies of Learning the Standards in the main board. We are not running any Faith Shield. There's no Faith Shield in the side. We are running Pull No Punches. We've got the Prehensile Tail. Got I'll Protect You, Chivalrous, Snack Time, Manly. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else unique that I want to point out here, but I did like the Brute Strength inclusion. That is going to bring us, let's see, that was Kyle, right? So now we are on Matthew at number 4. And this has a wider attack lineup than the others. We are once again bringing in Muscle Mauler. The surprising exclusion from this list is that we are missing Hardened Jab. Hardened Jab, the big downside is that it's only 3 speed, and Overhaul's not adding speed. So it sure is just a 3 speed mid attack. And even Mirio struggles right now to play Hardened Jab, and he gets to make it a low or a high. And Overhaul's not even switching the zone. So that makes sense to leave it out. And instead of Hardened Jab, we're playing Reconstruction Wrecker, a 4 high instead of a 3 mid. That's going to allow us to play from our stage face down. So we're keeping that same kind of jab concept, but switching it from jab to Reconstruction Wrecker. We once again have Muscle Mauler to draw from our momentum, along with Prehensile Tail and Pull No Punches. So I really like when Overhauls, when you're using all momentum, stage, and hand as resources to grab attacks. And the 1 copy of Naval Laser Beam, probably primarily for the Breaker 2 block. And we're running a couple copies of Hardened Barrage to unflip our stage. And this was the only Overhaul list, I believe, to be running Mimicry. We don't have any Faith Shields here, but the unique foundation that we see here that we didn't see in the others is Glamorous. This is going to be a way to unflip foundations and just a way to flip for +3 speed if you need it. So that's nice there. We're getting this to unflip foundations, right? And we're getting Hardened Barrage to unflip foundations. So this is an Earth Overhaul list trying at least a few different ways to compensate for getting bogged down in face down foundations. Let's see, we saw someone with Experimenting Quirks, Reconstruction, building the top card of our discard pile face down. We want to see a lot of attacks because we're going to be picking them up with Maximum Overhaul. Glamorous is also just a way of doing Prehensile Tail again. You can use Prehensile Tail, draw from your momentum. From Maximum Overhaul, you can build Glamorous from your hand, unflip Prehensile Tail, use Prehensile Tail again to grab another momentum. And you can see how this gets nuts pretty quickly. And that is going to do it for the EU Earth Overhauls. Let's jump to the Oceania region where we have Ouyang Choi at spot number 4. We once again have the Frenzy, Jab, Maximum Overhaul combo. We're not, this is quite a bit of attacks. This is a chunky list, 65 cards, 24 attacks. That's a pretty good ratio. That's a 37% attack ratio. So this is going to be kind of an aggressive lean, but we're not seeing any attacks here that we haven't seen in the other builds. We're once again seeing Muscle Mauler, this Nomu attack, getting put into Overhaul to great success. We have the Seizing the Advantages. Let's see in the sideboard. We are running Prehensile Tail at a 4x, not just a 2x, but we're only running 1 Pull No Punches. We've got our Faith Shield. We've got our Learning the Standards, got our You're So Obvious. We're packing 3 more in the sideboard just in case we need them. We're actually maining 1 Web of Blades and siding 2. So I suppose in those matchups where Ouyang really wants to see Web of Blades, he is bringing in 3 of this unique foundation. So very aggressive on this foundation. And then we are running both Male Bonding and Manly Passionate Guy at a 4x. A lot of times we see decks make a decision between this foundation, which one you want to run, and then leave out the other. But here we are just running both. 2 snack times, 4 quick to acts. And that is going to do it for Ouyang's list. Let's jump to the US. Let's start from the bottom and look for Earth Overhauls. Okay, here we have Zachary on Earth Overhaul. And okay, so we're seeing a new attack enter this attack lineup. Howitzer, Impact, Cyclone. Add the top card of your deck to your momentum. Combos with a Fury, which Hardened Frenzy is a Fury. So if they don't, if they completely block it, you get to build it down. If they don't completely block it, hey, you get to combo off of it. That's very nice. Which I think is the only Fury. Yeah, because Maximum Overhaul doesn't have any keywords. Back Alley Haymaker doesn't have Fury. Jab doesn't. So this is a really interesting inclusion when you're only running 4 attacks that have Fury. But it also gets Destroy 1 Foundation, draw 1 card for each of your momentum. Very, very interesting inclusion there. And then we're doing Pull No Punches to get momentum. We have Prehensile Tail again, Cooperation Offer for great defense. And here we finally see Homage to My Hero jumping into the fray. And this is a great, this was a great foundation for Kirishima 2, and it's a great foundation for Kirishima 3, also known as Overhaul. It says, after you're dealt damage by an unblocked attack, draw 1 card, which is nice since Overhaul, you're you're frequently at 0 cards in hand on defense, and so this is another way to draw. And then if you've built a foundation this combat phase, your fear, your punch attack gets +1 damage. Basically, I mean, you'll always have built because you're building from your hand. So it's basically just free 1 damage on all of your attacks. And now we see someone with style, which we didn't see in the other lists, to re-ready, and it's also just some nice stun hate. And we are not seeing learning the standards or face shield in the main board. We do see learning the standards in the side, along with 3 twisty surroundings. That's a pretty aggressive side on twisty. So when he's bringing it in, he's not just bringing in 1 or 2. He's going to bring in 3. And then we have the chop and bad guy roundup. All right, Howitzer Impact Cyclone. Let's jump into David's list. Earth Overhaul. We got our Frenzy Jab, Maximum Overhaul, Chop, Bad Guy Roundup, Muscle Mauler, Calorie Counter. Okay, so there's not a lot new there. And I don't see any new foundations that we haven't seen over here. I guess we haven't seen High Value Target, but it's just being run at a 1x. So I feel bad the way I'm doing this. Like, I feel like I'm sliding David here, and it's just because he's going 8th, because we've already looked at 8 overhaul lists. So I've already kind of exhausted everything to talk about. And so I'm only spending like 1 minute here on this list. I feel a little dirty doing that. But, I mean, because it still is a unique take on the list, and we're still running unique ratios. But we're just going quickly because we've got 11 of these Earth overhauls we're looking at. Now, this one does have a, very balanced block zone ratios there. And once again, is pretty aggressive, running about 37% attacks. But let's jump to the next overhaul where we have Chris Nixon. Let's jump into this list. Very, very similar attack lineup, although we are once again excluding Jab. Now, we're not running Reconstruction Worker instead here. But yeah, Jab was decided to be left out in exchange for Bad Guy Roundup for the momentum hate. We are running Twisty Surroundings in the main board. This is awesome against Mirio because you can discard your momentum and change the zone, and then just repeatable Breaker 2 always feels nice. Now, in this list, we are running 4 copies of Carbo Loading. We saw this in the Life Overhaul build for Luke Quincy, and it also has the Earth symbol. And so here we are running this instead of like Pull No Punches as a 3 diff, and this one just giving it 3 damage, and then we're able to re-ready it as soon as one of our attacks deals damage, and we gain health. Here we're seeing a copy of Petty Squabble come into play. We can commit our character to go and just dig a little deeper and try to find that last attack we need, or just discard to commit down something on our opponent's stage. And we got 1 copies of Kirishima's Assistance coming in to stop the partial blocks. All right, let's jump to, I think we got a few more here, right? I hope I'm not forgetting it. Okay, we got 2 more here. 2 more? Yeah, we got 2 more here. We got James and we've got William. All right, so we've seen 9, got 2 left. Now, this one is a pretty compact list compared to the others. This is a flat 50. Interesting, flat 50. With a pretty aggressive, I mean, that's 36% attacks. We got our Frenzy, got our Jab, got our Maximum Overhaul, got our Pull No Punches with the Prehensile Tail. We're not running a lot of the defensive foundations. This is all very aggressive. I can't remember who I played in round 6 that turn 2'd me on Earth Overhaul, but I think it might have been James, because the overhaul I played was very, very aggressive, and they just went on this insane attack string of like they did Back Alley Haymaker, which I didn't block. I was holding on to 2 high blocks, into Hardened Frenzy, which I blocked with a high block, they built it down, into Hardened Frenzy, which I blocked with a high block, they built it down, into Maximum Overhaul, picked up their 2 frenzies, played their 2 frenzies, and I think they had some other attacks along the way. It was just, it felt a little ridiculous to me to block the frenzies, but I mean, I was holding on to 2 high blocks. I just kind of had to get through the turn, and I knew I was going to have to block something at some point. Might as well block the attack so you can full block, right, rather than Maximum Overhaul, which I couldn't even attempt to block, Chop, which I couldn't attempt to block. So it made sense to me to block the frenzies, but it was kind of this damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because then he just played Maximum Overhaul to pick them back up. So this is a pretty neat iteration here. We've seen the other Earth overhauls be a little more willing to play a mid-range game, whereas this list is very, very aggressive. And let's jump to the last list, which is William. And here we have 62 cards. We're running a copy of Teamwork, interesting, to get the 5 damage, and you can once again ignore another block. You can do 2 blocks ignoring progressive difficulty when you block with it. We are seeing both Bad Guy Roundup and Instant Shining Flash, so now we have Momentum Hate on both high and low. Doesn't matter what Mirio calls. We've got the Jab Frenzy Maximum Overhaul combo. We've got the Carbo loadings coming in again. And Surprise Interception at a 2-of. I really like this foundation in Earth Overhaul. I think it's very, very strong because you can block a Phantom Threat, for example, and keep it from going to Momentum. Or, I mean, you can block like a million different things that are going to go to Instant Explosive Release, or you can block Dual Needle Lunge, or I'm sure there's like 10 others that you'd be very willing to block with to keep them from going to Momentum. And, you know, if you build it down, then you just flip it for +2 damage, and it's a 1 mid block. And then you have a 1 mid block in your stage ready to block with at any time and keep things from going to Momentum. So I love putting 2 of this in the main board. I think this is a really, really good decision. And I'm not sure it was done by the other overhauls. Maybe it was by a few others. But we're got 2 Faith Shields in the main, and we got 2 more. We're packing some Learning the Standards in the side as well. And that is going to do it for the Earth overhaul lists. So we saw a lot of consistencies, but we also saw tiny, unique plays made by each player along the way. And that brings us to our 2 Earth Nomus that made top cuts. Let's first start with Jacob. And, you know, in the Discord, Jacob is known as like the Nomu guy. He played Earth Nomu to a 2nd place finish at the Rochester RLE. Almost actually took down the entire event, but came in 2nd. Very, very impressive run. And then he backs it up here and takes it all the way to 18th place. But we have the attack package is quite similar to Overhaul. The main difference is that now we're bringing in Relentless Barrage, which Relentless Barrage helps overcome the fact that Nomu is a 5-hander, because then you get to go pick up another barrage from your discard pile. You know, and by the time you're playing Relentless Barrage, you've typically exhausted their blocking resources. Like they've probably already blocked 3 or 4 times. And so it's the 3 speed of this attack doesn't really matter, because by that point you're getting the pseudo speed of them having cards in their card pool, and you're just bringing the barrages in really to finish the game out, right? You're leading with your chop, with your haymaker, with your jabs, and then you're finishing the game out with the Relentless Barrage. So the 3 speed doesn't hold it back as much as you might think it would. Plus, this list just overcomes the lack of speed in several different ways. One, we have 3 copies of Talented Baker. Almost all of our attacks draw, so this will always be online, and we're going to be giving everything a speed. And we have Snack Time to give everything speed, and 17 health is the magic number for Nomu to turn on Quick to Act. Nomu does not do a lot of blocking. You know, he's going to be very willing to take 6 to the face and get to the point to where all of these Quick to Acts are online. Back Alley Haymaker is almost, well, this is the only 0 def, right? So if Jacob's going to be building in a 0 def with Back Alley Haymaker, he is going to be building in Quick to Act. And typically by the time of his kill turn, he's going to have 2 Quick to Acts out and a Talented Baker out, which means everything, you know, and a Snack Time out. So everything is going to be getting 4 speed. So you can see very quickly how this list overcomes the 3 speed downsides of Hardened Jab and Relentless Barrage. The speed goes off the charts pretty soon. And Jacob's playing 2 copies of Surprise Interception. I don't think Nomu plays this card as well as Overhaul, but I do think it's very strong in the meta right now. And then, of course, Nomu gets to play Big Appetite. He's a 5-hander, right? So he gets to flip and draw a card. And then, unless he's playing another 5-hander, he doesn't have to discard a card. Just another way to draw there. But we're once again seeing, by the way, Prehensile Tail and Pull No Punches and Muscle Mauler and all these different ways to draw from Momentum, and Hardened Jab to play from our stage, Relentless Barrage to play from our discard pile. This list has all sorts of ways it's overcoming being a 5-hander. It's not going to be hard for this list to play a attack string of 5 or 6 attacks. And Calorie Counter is just awesome in Nomu. This is going to be 5-speed mid for 12 damage. You know, it really makes you think twice about blocking early, but I guess Nomu, you don't really have a choice. You pretty much have to block everything, and then this can just absolutely clobber you. Let's go into the other list and take a look at it. Here we have Dakota on Earth Nomu, and a very similar list here to Jacob, but we're not running the calorie counter. Instead, for our attack with a low block, we are running Tetra Terror Onslaught. This is going to be a second way to play from our discard pile, right? We already are running the 4x Relentless Barrage. Now Tetra Terror, we're losing 3 health. If it deals damage, we're going to get to go find it. We can even play this twice from our momentum. So another way to play an attack from our momentum. And it's going to be pretty hard to block because of these quick to acts, making it so fast. And the second time you play it, I mean, it's going to be on 6 base speed. Once again, we're bringing in quick to act, bringing in snack time, bringing in Talented Baker. Now this foundation base is more compact than Jacob's and a lot more focused just on getting the kill, right? And you can see once again, we're doing pull no punches and prehensile tail. So these lists were pretty similar to each other, you know, tiny bit of differences. The main difference being that calorie counter is being swapped for Tetra Terror. Although I think both of those attacks are great, I'm not really sure which one is better, and clearly both of them played them well to a 10th place and 18th place finish. All right, I'm trying to talk slower and keep my voice in check today so that I can actually finish these deck lists today. That is going to do it for the Earth symbol. We are on to the good symbol. Now the good symbol, we had 13 decks top, 13 players top, 8 of them were on Mirio, but the other 5 were all on different characters. We had a Jiro, Midoriya 4, All Might 3, Toru 2, and Recovery Girl. So the good symbol actually had the most diversity of any symbol, where we had 6 different characters make top cuts. It's not going to feel that way though, because 8 of them were on Mirio. Okay, before I jump in, let me pause and just take a quick drink of water. All right, we can do this. Let's jump in first with this Recovery Girl list, because I think this is maybe the coolest list of all of Top Cuts. This is just insane. This is a 94 card Recovery Girl list with 17 attacks. 17 attacks is typically the amount of attacks you see in a 50 card list. This is 18% attacks. I'm not sure the last time we saw a deck make top cuts that was running a sub 20% attack ratio. It's just insane. And then even then, there's things in this list, like I'm going to have a hard time talking about all the intricacies of this list, because I feel like I would need to play with it 3 or 4 times before I start seeing all the combos. Now there's a few things that I'll just mention off the top that I can see, but I think it would really take Cody making a video about this list to really see all of the intricacies here. I've played a few games as Life Recovery Girl. I have not played Good Recovery Girl. So just bear with me. I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to do this list justice though, and that's because of how unique it is. But I believe Cody made the HLC last year, and he played Recovery Girl in the HLC. So Cody is maybe one of the most experienced players on Recovery Girl in the game. First thing is there's a ton of damage reduction here. This is similar to Life Recovery Girl. You know, Recovery Girl just does damage reduction better than anybody. We have Bubble Distraction. We have Planning Ahead. We have we got some more. We've got Bonds of Friendship. We've got Resistance to give their next attack -2 damage. Manly Friendship for -1 damage. We're going to be healing back up with cards like Rigorous Training. So we've got our damage healing and our damage reduction. And then one really cool foundation that I saw was Finger Guns. Response commit after you play an attack added to your hand. So this gets really, really neat with a card like Rejuvenating Smash. We're playing Rejuvenating Smash second. We're drawing 2. We're gaining our 2 health back. We're going to commit Finger Guns. We're going to send Rejuvenating back into our hand. And we're going to get to do it again on defense. So on defense, we're going to get to draw 2, gain 2. And then, yeah, we can just loop this rejuvenating to where we're using it to draw 4 and gain 4. And then if Cody wanted to, he could bring in Bad Guy Roundup from the sideboard, use finger guns, and get his rival to discard 2 momentum instead of just 1 momentum. So absolutely fascinating play here. I would not have thought of putting finger guns in this list in a million years. And this is what you get when you have someone who's an expert on a character and has been iterating and iterating and iterating on a list. Now, most every attack draws. Mighty Punch can draw 2 cards if it's not blocked. Reverse Throw can draw, and Rejuvenating's drawing. And then Final Smash, we're running this at a 4x. And then we're going to put something on top of our deck, and then we can always draw it with like Destined or Passing the Torch. And guess what? We're always going to have these on board because we get to build whatever we want from our discard pile on defense when we take damage. So, like, I feel like I'm not doing this list near justice enough. I think Cody could probably make a 1 hour long video going into all the intricacies here, but I think this was the most unique. And although I'm happy that I never played against it, like, this is like interesting because it's one of those where like I want to see it in action, but I also would rather watch paint dry. And it's one of those two extremes. It's like either this is the coolest list in all of Top Cuts, or this is the worst list. I mean, not the worst, the most boring list in all of Top Cuts. Fascinating deck there. Let's jump into All Might 3 with Frank. And this, we see, it's a 75 card list, and we're just playing all the good stuff on the good symbol. You know, All Might 3 is just the like generically strong, good character. He's going to be giving it speed or damage based on opponent's cards in hand, and he's going to be drawing 2 cards. He's just generically strong, and there's a lot of different ways you could take him. And so here we are just playing all the good punches. Yeah, we don't need to not play anything. We are just playing them all. And then we have Pull No Punches, Raiding the Villain's Hideout, Body Rejuvenation. We're getting a lot of ways to use the card draw for either aggressive output or defensive abilities. Body Rejuvenation, we get to discard for -2 speed. Raiding the Villain's Hideout, we're getting to discard for plus damage. So 2 different very important foundations here to use our cards in hand as a resource. We're getting the big 3 Practical Studies, very, very strong Deadlock. Determined has very strong Deadlock. Pull No Punches has strong Deadlock. This is a list that's very willing to go into the long game. We're packing Plummeting Punch with Deadlock. It can kill you early if it draws the right cards, but it's also just happy to sit back and play a longer game and gets a lot of solid defense here. So that is going to do it for Frank's list. Let's do all the non-Mirios first. I'll finish it out with Mirios. Let's jump into Dylan on Midoriya 4. Now, Dylan has been playing Midoriya 4 basically since Undaunted Raid has come out, and he's been doing it to great success, either to Top Cuts or making it to the winning round of Swiss. And here at Nationals, he makes it into top 16, and he's going to be going to Worlds. And he did it on the good symbol. I know that when the set first started out, Dylan was on the void symbol, but here we are on the good symbol. Once again, we're seeing Body Rejuvenation making an appearance, discarding for -2 speed. Of course, Midoriya 4 gets to draw 3 on defense. We got Any Means Necessary to discard and then draw back. This is just always going to be good in a character like Tetsu or Midoriya 4, where we're discarding quite a bit. We're discarding for the damage, for the momentum. And then we see a solid good punch lineup. And Hardened Frenzy, because this, Midoriya 4 says punch or fury attack. So he's not completely locked into punches. So mostly we're just seeing punches here, but I like the addition of Hardened Frenzy as well. So if it's completely blocked, you're going to get to build it down and then pick it up with Hardened Jab. Doesn't do it quite as consistently as Overhaul, getting the benefit of maximum overhaul to pick it back up, but still very good. And so Hardened Frenzy really finding its way into a lot of Top Cut lists this Nationals season. And then we have a Celebrity Status. Yeah, I'm not seeing the good symbol is kind of hard to find unique, unique plays. There's lots of different characters that are strong with it, and they're doing it in different ways. So it's not that it's not interesting. It's just that it's a lot of the same cards. The good punch package is maybe the most solidified attack package in the entire game. Let's go to the Oceania region and jump into Bailey's list, where we have good Toru 2 making it all the way to the finals. The big benefit of Toru 2 is its strongest overhaul, especially against repeated 100% decks, and you get to, it has built-in deadlock, right? So if somebody wants to play the long game with you, your speed increase, I guess it's not speed, it's adding to the rival's block modifier. It scales alongside your rival, and so it helps double against Overhaul, right? Because Overhaul can just speed build into deadlock, and then Overhaul's like playing repeated, or he's just ignoring progressive, and you get to force him to play on progressive. So it makes sense as a meta call. The downside of Toru 2 is how are you killing people? And that's where Texas Smash comes into play at a 3x, getting this 11 damage move. We're also playing Final Smash so that we can go and draw something from our discard pile and then Wind Up Punch as well. And we are discarding, so we're getting Wind Up Punch online by using Raiding the Villain's Hideout to get to discard for the damage. And then we also get the Stun 2 here and Stun 2 here, plus the addition to the block modifier from Toru. You can see how you're very quickly unable to block Toru's attacks. And then we have the Breaker 2 on defense. It's not a punch, but it's okay to play one or two things not as a punch, even though we do want to combo with Valiant Assault and Texas Smash. And then over here we see, good foundations. I like having the 2 copies of Cheerleader and the copy of Airy for momentum-based defense. I think Cheerleader is one of the top 5 strongest foundations in the game right now. Mirio doesn't play it a lot because he naturally gets momentum-based defense on face, but for all the other good decks, I think it's very, very smart to include a couple copies of Cheerleader. And I really like that Bailey decided to play 3 Pull No Punches and 3 Raiding the Villain's Hideout. I think in good punch builds, these 2 foundations are maybe the best foundations that you get. And too often I see decks only playing like 2 Pull No Punches and no rating, or they're not even playing them. They're just going for 2 diffs like nice try, And I think having these on the board a lot of times is the difference between winning and not winning, especially when Pull No Punches just gets this insane deadlock, and rating allows you to win the game early, and it's going to unlock the Stun 2 here for Wind Up Punch. So, I think that you can always have 10% of your deck as 3 diffs and be pretty consistent. So 62 cards, 6 3 diffs, that makes sense to me. And what's the other good list that we're missing now? We did Toru 2, we did All Might 3, we did Recovery Girl, we did Midoriya 4. Oh, it's Jiro, of course. Jiro, if you remember, we have Jesse Cervini on Kyoka Jiro. Now, if you remember my video that I made about the top 10 decks that you need to play test against to get ready for Nationals, I rated good Jiro with Cannon Blast as the number 1 deck to play test against. And then Jesse Cervini was the only player to make top cuts with this build of Jiro. So I feel like I kind of led everybody astray there. Although I do think that this deck gets even better in Jetburn when we get, like, for example, this deck always wants to see Future is Now, Capture Evildoers, Future is Now and Specialized Sound Waves. And in Jetburn, we're getting Fierce Wings, which can pick up either of these. So whichever one you're missing, just use Fierce Wings to go and pick up. So I think this deck gets even better in Jetburn. But as it is, congrats to Jesse for being the one player to make top cuts with this list. I thought we were going to see it a lot more. But the basic thing is just that you get to play Back Alley Haymaker, and then you're playing Specialized Sound Waves. You're going to find your Future is Now. You're going to use Future is Now, and then you can make a massive Cannon Blast, or you can play your Foundations and then play your Capture Net or your Cannon Blast. These are going to get +1 speed, +1 damage for every card in your card pool. Pretty soon, you've got this just unblockable 20 damage Cannon Blast that you're finishing out on. The problem, I think, with the list is that everybody is prepared for it, right? So a lot of people are playing resets, or like Mirio can take the Cannon Blast to 0, for example. And so with the resets plus Mirio, those can be kind of difficult matchups. But I think this list is just extremely consistent. And I think its power level is very strong. That's why I rated it number 1. And we can see Jesse's actually playing 5 1Xs on the 2 diffs. This is interesting. So 1 cheerleader, 1 so manly, 1 determined, 1 lost in thought, 1 nice try. Just trusting that, when he needs it, he will see it. 57 cards, pretty compact. Jiro normally doesn't want to play more than 60 cards because Jiro wants to find the combos. Surprise interception added 2 of, like I talked about earlier. I think this was a good meta call. And then that is going to do it for foundations. I also like including the Capture Evildoers. This is very strong against Mirio to get his momentum away so that he can't just zero out your massive Cannon Blast. I imagine when playing Mirio that these 3 evading copies come in with this second copy of Capture Evildoers. That is going to do it for the non-Mirios. So let's jump into the Mirios. The first Mirio list let's look at is Patrick Toombs. Now, I don't know what this guy was thinking, but this is a terrible list, and probably why he got 29th, and didn't get to the top 16. But yeah, this is just a trash list, and really disappointed in this player. No, okay, I'm just kidding. This is my brother, okay? And he's playing my list. And I'm playing his list. We played the exact same Good Mirio list. We have 1 card difference. He's playing 2 Unrivaled Combatant. I was playing 3 Unrivaled Combatant. He's playing 3-year finished. I was playing 2-year finished. So we literally had a 1 card difference between our 2 decks. I think this is an incredible Mirio build. Between Patrick and I, we went 13, 1, and 1, not counting intentional ties during 15 rounds of Swiss. So only 1 loss during Swiss. I've already talked about this lineup quite a bit, but you're just leaning into Phantom Threat. You're using First Impressions, Lemillion to the Big 3, Raiding, Manly Friendship, your momentum, your character. You're making this massive Phantom Threat that's going to consistently get flash, that's going to consistently draw, and then you're going to go into Rejuvenating, and then you're going to go into Valiant, you're going to clear your card pool, you're going to go Jab, Valiant, and you're drawing a billion cards, you're discarding all these to Raiding. If you have Raiding and Lemillion out, all of your attacks are getting +5 damage between those 2 foundations and your character. Pretty soon, all it takes is 3 Valiant Assaults to kill an Overhaul from full health, and you can see how this deck just consistently will turn to you unless you have pretty strong disruption. If this deck finds Lemillion or Raiding the Villain's Hideout, you're dead on turn 2, and as long as Mirio checks 5s. So it's a flat 50 card list. A lot of Mirio's best cards are high blocks, right? Like Lemillion, Raiding, Phantom Threat, Valiant, Hardened Jab. So, Mirio decks are just always going to skew towards high, or I shouldn't say always, but most of the time they're going to skew towards high blocks. That's just what comes with the build. So that is the list. I think it's incredible. I'll just jump into my list as well. We had some differences in the sideboard, but I think we proved the build pretty well during Swiss rounds, both making it to top cuts. I finished in 3rd. I think Patrick had the misfortune of when after day 1, the last 2 rounds of Swiss were right before top 32. After day 1, I knew that I was going to be in the top 32, whereas Patrick was basically on a win and in his round 7, or in his round 8, which he won, and then intentionally tied round 9 and got into top cuts. I think Patrick probably does even better if he knew that he was going into top cuts and got to get some rest and come into it ready. But as it was, they kind of rushed us from Swiss rounds to top cuts. But it was still really, really awesome to top the event with my brother. Probably the highlight of my weekend. So, don't clip what I said and put it out of context. All right. Let's go to the next Mirios. That's 2 out of 8. We got 6 left. Let's jump into Andrew's good Mirio to Godded list. Now, this one, we are also running 51 cards, so it's a pretty aggressive build. But instead of Hardened Jab, we're going with Setup Strike. And so between Haymaker and Setup Strike, We're hoping that we have enough stun plus speed to break down the rivals' defenses. Even if they do have the right zones to block us, we can still just win with stun and speed. And we're 4Xing Phantom Threat. Here, instead of raiding, we are playing Pulno Punches, but I really like that Andrew is playing this at a 4X because I think finding this card is just so key to closing out a game. And like I said earlier, for Patrick and I's decks, the key was checking 5s. Andrew's playing Advice for Winners to make sure that he checks 5s. And he's got some Unrivaled Combatant. I think Unrivaled Combatant was just absolutely necessary for your Mirio list to overcome Eraserhead, overcome Tape, overcome Cooperation Offer. I think this foundation was absolutely key. Let's go to Paul's list in 21st place. Here, very similar, but instead of Jab and Setup Strike, we're playing Rewind Throttle. This makes sense. The downside of Throttle is that it's 3 damage, but Mirio makes it 5 damage. And then we get to discard a card and selectively commit a rival foundation. So it pairs nicely with Back Alley Haymaker, turning Stun 2 into Stun 3 with the 2 of these, and selective committal is so much better than just stun. Got the Pulno Punches. We are playing lots of momentum-based defense on top of Mirio. So we got the 1 copy of Airy, 2 copies of Cheerleader, 2 copies of Broken Psyche. So 5 different cards all taking advantage of momentum. And then we've also got the Unrivaled Combatants. Let's jump into, was there another good Mirio in the US region? I am not seeing any, which is going to take us to Brandon in the Oceania region. And Brandon actually won the entire event. So Brandon's Mirio was the only Mirio to actually win one of the 3 nationals. And here we can see Pulno Punches at a 2X and Raiding the Villain's Hideout at a 2X. We got the Phantom Threat and Rejuvenating. Of course, Rejuvenating, if you have Raiding out, you get that free momentum that just makes that combo so nice. We got the Back Alley Haymaker, Valiant Assault, Setup Strike, Heroic Strike, Texas Smash. So we're really leaning into the speed and stun with the Haymaker and the Setup Strike and the Heroic Strike. And then on the foundations, we are playing Passing the Torch to even further draw, and we're 4Xing Lemillion of the big 3. I think all of these Mirio lists kind of have to at least 3X or 4X this card. It's just getting this Lemillion of the big 3 on stage is a lot of times the difference maker between winning a game and losing a game. It's just if you have Lemillion of the big 3 on stage, you're Deku 2, except you don't have to discard a card. And then 4Xing the Phantom Threat. Yeah, Phantom Threat and Lemillion of the big 3, just got to 4X them. Playing 50 cards, playing 70 cards, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what kind of style you're playing. You have to 4X them. They're just way too good. And that's going to take us to the EU region, where we have Mitchell Stevens, Ben Clapperton, and John Paul Golightly. And all 3 of these Mirio lists were very similar. In fact, I think John's and Ben's were card for card the same. So very similar to Patrick and I, where I'm not going to spend time on both lists. I'm just going to look at one of the lists. Let's jump into Ben's list. All 3 Mirios that made top cuts in the EU were 63 cards with 22 attacks and ran 1 copy of Airy. So Airy is a pretty common decision that we're seeing from a lot of Mirio players for further momentum-based defense and just to re-ready something on defense. We're seeing 2 copies of Pulno Punches, 4 copies of Lemillion of the Big 3, and 3X Unrivaled Combatant. Like I said, I think to truly be competitive as Mirio in these national events, this foundation was absolutely key to fueling your run. And 1 copy of Lessons from Tayaki, mainly just for the deadlock. You know, a lot of times Mirio can just get way outbuilt by Overhaul, and you need your deadlock to help keep you in those longer games. And the 63 card Mirio list is going to want to be able to play the long game pretty well and consistently. And then we're seeing Specialist of Sound and Nice Try, which was, we didn't see this combo in a lot of the other Mirio lists, but it is just solid speed hate on defense. And yeah, I think John's was the exact same. Yeah, we got the 1 copy Lessons from Tayaki, 22, 1, and 4. I think it was the same. And that's going to take us to Mitchell Stevens, where we are also almost the exact same. 63 cards, 22 attacks. But the difference here is that Mitchell is running 2 copies of One for All Full Cowling 5% Strike, which I really like this decision. I had this card in my sideboard, and it was the reason that I beat Nomu in my round 6 Swiss matchup, because I made it fast, they couldn't block it, and then that said, hey, commit your character, you're not taking 6, now you're taking 14, because I had built it up with, Lemillion and raiding. I think I had 2 ratings out, and I used both of my ratings, and then I discarded my hand and drew 3. That's one of the other benefits of this card, especially with the rating combo. You get to discard to rating and then just draw a new hand, which is very, very nice. So sometimes this can just find you that last attack that you needed to close out a game. And it can also win matchups against Recovery Girl and Nomu and the like. Almost nobody right now that's strong in the meta wants to be committed on defense, especially Overhaul and Mirio They both have pretty strong defense on face. So I like this decision here. Wasn't pairing it with rating, but was running Pull No Punches. And then we once again see 3 copies of Unrivaled Combatant. So all of these EU Mirio lists were pretty similar in their build. They were Mirio lists that could kill you on turn 2 with the right draw, but they could also play a longer game as well. And that is going to do it. We have done, let me just do one more scan, because I swear I forgot someone. With 56 lists, I feel like I'm going to have forgotten someone, and someone will be very, very sad if they were watching and I didn't talk about them. No, I think I did everything. That was a behemoth of a task, and my voice actually stayed with me, and we did it. We are done with the top cut lists. This national season was very, very fun. It was kind of crazy in how it was back to back to back weeks. We never really had things slow down. I was playtesting a ton for US Nationals, so I just never got the chance to make videos about this before. So then I had this situation where I had to do 56 all at one time. But it was a lot of fun to see, like, for example, to see those overhaul lists, to see those 11 lists, and see the unique differences each player made. And we wouldn't have gotten that if I had just made a video after each region. So that was nice to do. Tomorrow, I'm going to be releasing the results of my 200 subs giveaway contest. I had 30 entries, I believe. I hope nobody's deleted their UVS Ultra lists yet, because I'm going to be pulling them all and making a presentation tonight, and I'll be announcing the winner tomorrow. And then I have a ton of Jetburn content coming. We're going to be talking tier lists, the top 10 cards of Jetburn. I'll show off some of the builds I've got ready. I'll talk about 5 things I like, 5 things I don't really like about Jetburn. UVS Games is hooking me up with some cards that I can open up on camera. Just a lot of content coming in the next 2 weeks about Jetburn. And I haven't even finished my Jetburn Snap grades, and we haven't even talked Godzilla yet. It's been a week since the Godzilla news, and I haven't even talked Godzilla. So we have a lot to catch up on. I'm finally feeling better. I'm not feeling so sick after Nats, and we have accomplished the Decklist reviews. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you guys next time.